Hello and welcome to our session today, Digital Learning at the Innovation Hub. I'm going to pause on this slide for just a moment to give you a chance to take a look at this. Keep in mind you can always go back and read it after the video is done. I'll start again. Hello and welcome. My name is Dave Salmarsh. I'm Jamf's Global Education Strategist. I also get to lead the team of Jamf that is involved with the Matter Innovation Hub. I'll be joined today by Kelly Watkins-Conrad, one of our field sales engineer, and another amazing field sales engineer, Antonio Salas de la Terra. Antonio, I wanted to try that again, but I'm going to let it go. I always say you should make one mistake in the very beginning of your presentation, and if I pronounced his name wrong, de la Torre, hopefully I fixed it. So those that know me know that I love to fail and fail fast. And I actually try to make a mistake early in a presentation. So I hope you'll appreciate that. This is pretty strange for us, presenting not in front of a live audience. Quite frankly, in my 9th JNUC, not getting to see friends in front of me and being able to get some feedback from them is going to be challenging. But we're going to make the most of it because these are challenging times. I do want to start off with a clarification. The Matter Innovation Hub program is run by Matter, an NGO out of St. Louis Park, Minnesota. I'll go more into what Matter is doing in a moment, but let me go ahead and start off with the agenda. We're going to go ahead and go with an overview of the program. We'll also talk about the program goals. I'll give you some of the progress of what we've seen at the Innovation Hubs over the last several years. Kelly will jump in and give some technical details about the implementation. And at the end, we'll wrap it up with Antonio speaking about a new domestic version of the Innovation Hub. A little bit about Matter. Matter's been working for decades globally, domestically, helping with initiatives around health and nutrition and education. And Jamf is a partner of theirs for the Innovation Hubs. Now, I will say, while it's Matter's program, it actually did start back in 2017 when just on a volunteer time off opportunity for some Jamfs. And we decided we were going to take some technology down to a well-needed group down in Haiti. And the thing is, it became very quickly something more than just bringing some technology down to students. We realized right off the bat that as much as they need technology, the students were being taught in a situation that was rote memorization and a teacher standing and lecturing in the front of the board. So we quickly shifted, and 3 years later, it's now changed that our primary emphasis is focused on helping to improve instruction. Because yes, while technology, providing technology to an underserved population can do some good, the real goal is to make and instigate greater change that has a lasting impact, hopefully about a broader behavioral shift impacting that larger community. So this is not a technology project. We call it TEAL, Technology-Enabled Active Learning, because that's the type of teaching we try to do. But it's more about adjusting the current behavior that prevents certain population, regardless of their location, race, gender, or social economic status, from succeeding. So at its core, we seek to bring an inclusive program that meets all students' needs, that will help break the systemic poor conditions and low expectations by supporting teachers in their gradual shift to a different instructional type that will, again, I've mentioned it before, but really we're looking at focusing on providing active learning that's very personal for the student, that is equitable. And although just bringing initiatives like this to any third world country population is a very positive thing, we have purposely implemented programs to support gender equity and one that's of inclusiveness to students with learning challenges or that simply don't learn under those conditions. I mentioned we started, and it was a Jamf initiative, when we started going down to Haiti in 2017. And what we did was we went to a location, which was an orphanage and a school, where they had just built what they thought was going to be the computer lab. As soon as we got down there and we embraced the students with a personal student approach to learning, we realized that that wasn't the norm by the teachers. And so we had to work with the administration to get an agreement to shift the instructional practices. We didn't try to do this overnight, and we focused that when the students and the teachers came to the Innovation Center, we modeled that type of approach, and they agreed that when they came in, they would attempt to use that approach. So we started in a place in Haiti, and shortly into that program, we realized we wanted to expand it. And to expand it, we needed something more mobile. We needed a solution that could go anywhere. So the next opportunity was what we pretty much called a shipping container version of building out and building the same active learning model, but with solar power so you could place it just about anywhere. So we put a second site in Haiti, late 2017. That model then became something that Matter chose to take on as their initiative. And that's when some of you may know that in 2018, we were able to get the funding for, and build and then deploy a facility into Zimbabwe, the same similar shipping container version. It didn't take long for that shipping container version to prove some success, and we were able to gain more funding. And I should say the funding has come from some of the Jamf Nation Global Foundation. We've had a partner like Secret has donated some funds, and then a lot of individual contributions. Jamf has contributed the resources that we have as a pro bono, but most of the funds for putting these facilities have come from other sources. One of those sources, before we expanded in Zimbabwe, was just a small model in Senegal. Gorgui Dang, basketball player, used to play for Minnesota Timberwolves, helped put in a small facility at the MBA Africa training facility, the MBA Africa Academy, that helps both young women and young men that are hoping to go on and go to college. Thanks to another Jamf who put in a Global Foundation grant, she was able to acquire funds for technology, and then she came to myself about how to do that, and we basically implemented a Matter Innovation Station at a site in Uganda. We were off and running. Then we wanted to expand further, and we were able to put a facility, and I'll show you this model in a second, an actual building where we designed it ourselves around this active learning model, and we were able to add on an active learning station, a second room, which was really more of a flexible learning center in Zimbabwe. Because of the success of the original hub in Zimbabwe, we were able to secure funds to actually build another center to replace that innovation hub with a 2-room building, which basically freed up the original hub that we put in. And that is being moved right now to another location in Zimbabwe. So the original portable hub that went to Zimbabwe will go to a new location. And that's where we sit as of today. What we have in the works is, and thank you to Jamf, this was a facility that Jamf was able to fund with benefits coming from the IPO to put a facility at a high school. It's called Victoria Falls High School in Victoria Falls that will service 1,200 students at a high school. The school is very excited. They're breaking ground right now. But in addition to that, in addition to expanding in Zimbabwe, what we're really excited about, and something we looked at trying to do a couple years ago, is donors came together to donate, and I think it was about 11 different donors that came together through the IPO from organizations to support putting a facility in Minneapolis. And Antonio is going to talk about that a little bit, but I wanted to share that. And not only are we putting one in a fixed location, we're adding another mobile unit into the Minneapolis area. There's one more facility that's going to come online in early 2021 that I'm extremely excited about, because it's the first time outside of some individuals and Jamf and Secret, a small, that donated some, a large organization funding an entire facility. So we have an organization who's donated funds to Matter to put a facility in Kabul, Afghanistan at an all-girls school. Can't go into those details. That's for Matter to share, and that organization, Jamf, will be right alongside them, helping them through this process. So we're pretty excited about the expansion of that. If you look at the next photo that I have in here, you'll realize that this photo could be taken in any one of our current locations, whether it's Haiti, Senegal, Uganda, or Zimbabwe. This is pretty much the communities we're going into. This one happens to be in Harare, Zimbabwe. This is an example of the new facilities we're putting in. We're not putting them automatically in places. Ideally, a place will prove its interest, prove its value, and then we'll move to this. And this is an example of what happened in Victoria Falls, where we had overwhelming usage. We got the fundings and built the new building. In Harare, we built this exact building already. And as you'll see, it's very similar to what we have for our others facility, if you'd seen it before. It's active learning stations where students are able to work independently or in small groups. And yes, one way I teach an introduction to an iPad for a child who doesn't speak English is I let them play Crossy Road. Moving on, you'll see this is the shipping container version that we originally sent to Zimbabwe. We have one of these in Haiti. This is moving right now to a new location in Zimbabwe. And as we said, we maxed it out. We proved the value after a year and a half, basically, of being there. They were ready for something bigger to expand. And now we get to use this elsewhere. I mentioned the stations. Some locations don't have a large population. They only have 20 or 30 students. And through the power of Apple using shared iPads, it's perfect for our center at MBA Africa Academy and at the Malaika House Orphanage. And as you can see, it works perfect if they have a small room to get a bunch of students around to do all the same activities we do in a larger center. And as a matter of fact, in Uganda at Malaika House, they received funding that allowed them to go ahead and actually put another station in the room adjacent to this one. So they've already expanded their program, but they were able to kind of beta it or try it to see how it matched their students' needs. I'm going to go into now a little bit of the progress. I will have to tell you that I'm unapologetic to say we do not follow the national exams of the locations we go to. We are not trying to help students prepare for getting a college entrance exam. We're helping to prepare them for life. The fourth industrial revolution tells us that we want to help give students skills to be successful. We have embraced several models, and I will admit this is alphabet soup for anyone who's not an educational technologist. Don't worry, I'm not going to go into these in extreme detail, but I will say that we've used models that have been around for decades, in fact, for using technology and looking at it from a different perspective than kids just being able to pass an exam later on. TPAC, the one thing I'll say about it is it takes content knowledge that teachers have and the technology, and it brings them together. And we see this all over the world. We see this all over the United States, where there's a focus of just helping teachers take the content they have and digitize it. Well, the P in TPAC is about pedagogy, and that's about how we teach and the instructional practice. And we recognized very early on that if we didn't shift the instructional practice, we were not going to see dramatic change. And that's true in any school in the United States. SAMR, the second one down there, basically tells you that some people start at substitution, using technology for word processing. Well, quite frankly, if it was 1996, I'd be okay with that. But it's 2020, and we want to redefine learning and do things we could never have done before. And we can do those things, and so that's a big part of the program. As is Lodi, which is really another model to evaluate the use of technology by students and how teachers interact with that technology. And if I could, and there's other models, so name any other model that's out there, and what they have in common is we are more focused on bringing critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity to our students. And that is not assessed in a multiple guess, multiple choice exam. It's assessed by active participation. It's by students showing their work and demonstrating. So we've chosen, and while we do not come in and bring an entire curriculum, when we train the facilitators, when we introduce the concept of active learning and student-centered learning, we're using Apple's programs. Everyone can code, everyone can create, Sphero coding and robotics, and then the Osmo learning. And what they all have very much in common is they connect the digital with physical. Some of it, of course, interacts with digital things going on the iPad. But if you think about Create and incorporating the pencil or a pen and the physical robotic ball and the other pieces we have with that, and then the Osmo learning, it connects, it uses some of the best learning strategies combining with technology. So that's our core. That's what we're using at our core. And I have to say, how do you measure that? Well, you watch, you look, you have students present. How do you measure that you're having gender equity improve? Well, I can tell you that this young lady, Eloise, hadn't touched a screwdriver. And when she walked past the room, she didn't know what she was in for, but then we couldn't get it out of her hand. Meeting a young man who people think is learning and working at a kindergarten level as a 17-year-old, and seeing how we're able to empower him to do all the same activities and actually be a contributor to the program, really immediately got to the focus of working with students on being inclusive of students that are at all levels of readiness for learning. And you know, I can't go much further than without mentioning Nika, who you know, usually we show up someplace and I say, send me some helpers, some kids. And they send me 3 boys. And then I tell each boy, go away, and you can come back if you bring one young lady with you. And she stays and she gets involved. Well, Nika pretty much never let the drill get out of her hand or the screwdriver, or if she was teaching, she was in her realm when she was in front of other students and adults helping to teach them immediately. And she learned through participation. And also, I have to go back and go, we model what we are trying to enable. So when we have someone like Kelly come in and is working with all the facilitators, there was no question of the respect and appreciation we have for any person and what they can bring to it. And we don't look at where they're from or who they are or their gender. And I have to tell you, I'll let Kelly speak for herself in a few minutes, but the stuff I've seen from what she's been able to do has changed a mind shift in every location we've gone. The partners that we brought in, don't expect to come visit one of these hubs as maybe a contributor or a partner and not roll up your sleeves. As the young man here from Secret did, we needed some network help. And the next day he was teaching how to use the drones with the kids. So we look to all our other partners. This is one of the reasons we're presenting, is to try to encourage other people to participate as they can. But keep in mind, there's the active participation by all members that are there. This is a young woman that we have as a facilitator. She had never touched electrical wire and immediately was like, well, I want to learn how to do that. And she saw when we bring a team of people in, that we're all working together and collaborative, and everybody respects each other for what they bring. And I have to say, that just immediately came up, was shown to us that our modeling to those around us was having an impact, because we saw it. We saw it as soon as that young lady just took over and started working the Innovation Center. She knew she was trusted to jump in and do what she needed to do, but she knew she had some people that she could rely on if she needed it. But the confidence level we saw in these people was basically because of the Jamfs that came and demonstrated for them. And I remember the very first place we went, and as the principal referred to this young woman as the woman, Erin McDonald, it took a lot of the men a hard time. They would always come ask me a question, and I'm really good at looking dumb, like I don't know the answer. And I don't know, let's get Kelly. And finally, I think one of the most egregious just sexist kind of people you could imagine, who finally stopped asking me for help and finally just asking me, where's the woman? I think I finally got him to start asking, oh, you mean Miss McDonald? But it does take some change. It does take purposefulness to get rid of some systemic, not policies so much, but behaviors that we see. And so I think, if anything, we've done that through modeling. Wow, I'm right at my time. And I would love to hand things off to Kelly so she can share with you some of the stuff that's going on the backside within the Innovation Hub programs. Kelly, it's all yours.
Thanks, Salty. So as you can tell, we have a lot of really cool things that are going on all over the world. And while I'm in charge of all the technology for the Matter organization when it comes to these different places, I do just want you to keep in mind that the technology is simply enhancing the learning experience. It is not the center of the experience. And I know that's kind of hard to understand a little bit, but as Salty was saying, it's really about how we teach these kids, and having the technology enhance that and be a part of that, that is really the piece that we want to focus on. So when it comes to what we actually use in these different centers and hubs and stations, really the biggest piece of it all are the iPads. So we have about 28 iPads or so for most of the locations. For our stations, we have about 10. And again, it really depends on the need of each location. But every teacher and facilitator is going to have an iPad. And usually the headmasters or principals will get one too. And if we have anyone that's really eager and excited about all these hubs, they could probably convince us to get an iPad as well. So we have all of our adults that have iPads. What about our kids? So with our kids, we actually set up our iPads as shared iPads. For those of you who are not familiar with what a shared iPad is, just think of your typical consumer iPad, but you can have multiple logins into it. So when a teacher walks in with her class, all the kids go to the same iPad that they've been using because it will show their username and their faces, and they can go and pick their name, and then all of their stuff will load up. Because some of these locations don't have reliable internet, we really encourage our students to go to the same iPad so that we're not having to have items come downloaded from iCloud or uploaded again once the student logs out. We also do have a few MacBooks that are in each of these locations, but really the focus is on the iPad experience, especially when it comes to some of our programming things like using Osmo, which is a great application if you've never tried it before. The next item I'd like to cover is Apple School Manager. Apple School Manager is what's set up in the background to really enhance this experience. So there are several things within Apple School Manager that really make this experience. The first thing is that using Apple School Manager allows us to utilize automated Mdm enrollment. For those of you who may not be familiar on what that means, think of it this way. You get a brand new iPad out of the box, you open it, and you turn the iPad on. We have set it up so when you turn that iPad on for the first time, it will automatically enroll into our Mdm, and it will be set up skipping certain things we don't need, like Apple IDs, and then bring us right to the home page and allow for all of our applications to automatically start downloading along with settings. That's just one piece why using Apple School Manager is so important. The other reason is that we use Apple School Manager to set up all of our classes. In the past, we did use a student information system, but because of the way these schools are set across the globe and how their seasons are different than what a lot of American schools have, it became really complicated really quickly. So for now, we have just resulted in us creating these classes locally in Apple School Manager and then bringing those classes over. We also utilize locations in Apple School Manager. This allows us to have our umbrella organization of Matter, but then underneath, we can have all the different schools that we can easily get access to. This allows us to have a really organized way to get to certain classes for schools, have certain applications for schools, etc. And speaking of applications, we also use Apple School Manager because we can purchase our applications and books from there. But not only can we purchase those items in Apple School Manager, we also have the ability to transfer licenses between the different locations. And because Matter is a nonprofit, anytime we can save money is huge. So if we have purchased an application that is no longer being used in one location, we can easily transfer that license to another location, and then they can use that instead, without us having to buy that application over and over again. So the next item is the Mdm we use. Most of our locations are currently using Jamf School. For those who may not be familiar, Jamf School is the recently rebranded Zulu desk that we acquired, I believe it was last year already. And so most of our locations are using Jamf School. We still have 2 locations that are still using Jamf Pro. That's simply because those were the first locations and Jamf School didn't exist yet. And unfortunately, because of COVID, we don't have the opportunity to go to these locations and migrate these devices over. So that is something that we are hoping to do, hopefully next year, if we're able to do so, to bring everyone over into Jamf School. Jamf School is a K-12 focused MDM, and it's also a little simpler than Jamf Pro. So this is really great because we also spend time training our facilitators to use this technology as well. So while I'm also there to be boots on the ground at the initial setup, we also want our facilitators to feel empowered to do some of these things on their own. So we train our facilitators how to do simple things in Apple School Manager, like resetting a passcode for a student. But then we also give them access into Jamf School to be able to do really simple things like pushing out applications that they might need. Again, using Jamf School for this is really nice because it is a little bit more user-friendly than Jamf Pro, and we're able to shorten that view to make it a little bit easier for them. Also, we do use some Jamf School-specific applications, such as Jamf Teacher and Jamf Student, which I'll be getting to in just a second. One specific application that we do use that is not tied to an MDM is Apple Classroom. For those who aren't familiar, Apple Classroom is Apple's way of helping teachers manage their classroom. So within the Apple Classroom application on a teacher's iPad, the teacher is able to see all of the student iPads, and they're also able to do things like lock the devices, put them into a specific application. But then something unique with Apple Classroom is that teachers can view what the students are doing on their screen. So as you might imagine, it can get really exciting when we have a lot of fun things going on. Maybe we have crossy roads going on, we're playing with Sphero balls, we're coding, we're working with Osmo. And instead of interrupting the kids to see what they're working on, the teacher can simply go into the Apple Classroom app and just view what that child's iPad screen looks like. So you can easily tell if someone is on task or not, and then take action if needed. A complementing application that we also use is the Jamf Teacher application. There are some overlapping features between these two apps, but something that is really unique to the Jamf Teacher application is that we have the ability to actually create a lesson. So if we have a teacher that wants to have only certain applications show on the iPad, and maybe also allow for just certain websites to be available for a set period of time, we can actually do that locally on the teacher iPad. Again, this is not something available on the Apple Classroom application, but is available on the Jamf Teacher application. This is really a must-have for any one of you that is a teacher and have iPads in your classroom. So we allow for our teachers to take advantage of this in order to get the most out of their iPads and the full classroom experience in the hub, the station, or the center. So with that, I would like to pass it over to Antonio to talk a little bit about what we're doing locally here in Minneapolis.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly, and thank you, Salty. As Dave mentioned before, we are happy to announce that we're doing a partnership with Urban Ventures and Cristo Rey by bringing the technology to the Minneapolis community from funds provided by multiple organizations following Jamf's recent IPO. Enough funds were donated to build 2 innovation hubs. And that being said, the first one will be located down the street from Cristo Rey, or better known as the Colleen Powell Center, just a block away from where the first Zimbabwe hub was temporarily located several months back in 2018. This location is actually set to be ready in November. A mobile unit is also being made that will move throughout the community, supporting programming at local schools. Also funded by a donation, there will be 2 full-time facilitators who are being hired by Urban Ventures. To expand the Urban Ventures program, Jamf is sponsoring 5 Cristo Rey interns who will develop their skills by working who will be developing their skills by working as intern facilitators. This facility is set to be ready this coming spring, and we are very excited to serve the community. If you haven't already, look up Urban Ventures and Cristo Rey to see the awesome work that they are doing for their community. And back to Salty.
All right. Thank you very much, Antonio and Kelly. I really appreciate it. I will just a couple comments that, of course, because I thought of something that was on my slides before, but Antonio mentioned the 2 facilitators that are being hired in the Minneapolis area. And then we have these 5 Crystal Ray interns that Jamf has been participating for a couple of years and had, I think, 4 or so interns through our program. I know Antonio actually had an intern system engineer. We have had an intern system engineer who's gone on to work at Jamf, and to have 5 of them part of this program. And the piece that I want to share with you is I wanted to mention that, you know, in addition to the Apple programs, all of our facilitators, these interns, teachers at some of the teachers at the schools, any volunteer who wants to come in and participate, and the students are all actually going through the Apple teacher course and materials to get certified, whether it's an iPad and or Mac or coding. And so it's just a great way for us to show progress, and we've been able to do that. And I'm super excited to have these student interns. It's a great piece for me to get to be involved. If you have questions, Matter, again, is the primary source to go to, matter.ngo. They have great information on their site. Our partner, Jeremy Newhouse, is the direct contact at Matter. You can also contact me. We're looking to, see if there's anybody that's interested in partnering with us to do more. We have new partners supporting programming all the time. And I know at Jamf, I've got a lot of Jamfs just chomping at the bit to get into Minneapolis to start, once we get it up and running, to volunteer and come help. So maybe you have an organization that wants to be involved some way, somehow. We're here to listen to what you're interested in. Thank you very much for listening. I know it was a lot of information crammed into a short period of time. This is a great opportunity. I can't tell you how thankful I am to be able to share this with you, because quite frankly, that was our goal 3 years ago, and we're achieving it, where we're having other people participate and partner, and the more we can share information about it, the better. Thank you very much. Have an amazing JNUC. Don't forget to fill out the survey widget below. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.